Hello, and welcome back to another video where I explore fictional worlds. Today we're back with the 5th world of Wizard101 and the final world of the original storyline. We are exploring the fallen and sorrowful world of Dragon Spire, a realm that is now filled with only fire and death. But it was not always like this. Dragonspyre, like the other worlds, is a fragment of the original world that was torn apart by the Titan War, becoming the new home for the last Dragon Titans, alongside eventually humans and drakes, which are smaller, less powerful dragons. This was the beginning of Dragonspyre, with the Age of Dragons, where humans and drakes were mortal enemies. But once King Mean of the humans joined forces with Queen Gavarina of the drakes, they led the revolution against the dragons, claiming Dragonspyre for their own, leaving the one Dragon Titan left slumbering in an eternal sleep at the peak of Dragonspire's tallest spire, most likely as a symbol of power. This was Dragonspire's first great peace, which unfortunately, like the others, did not last long. After the king, Jungin, died with no heir, war broke out amongst the world, leaving the world in a weak state when Kalgor the Magnificent finally gained power and control. However, the war-torn Dragonspyre was ill-prepared when Rydal the Conqueror attacked and gained control, bringing a horrific plague with him, nearly wiping out all of Dragonspyre. But the world wasn't over just yet. No, Dragonspyre managed to survive a little bit longer when magic became the sole purpose of the world, creating the Dragonspyre Academy in order to find ways of combating the plague. The plague was the reason why Dragonspyre created their academy, which led to them becoming a great empire in the spiral, being a figurehead for magic studies and having a powerful military, even leading to some of the most powerful wizards to learn here, like Malistaire himself. But all good things must come to an end, and the end began when a student at the academy got a little too smart, becoming knowledgeable as well as powerful, eventually climbing the ranks and overthrowing the government, becoming a tyrant. This led to another revolution that further damaged Dragonspyre, but in the end led to no one ruler of Dragonspyre, for the people were now led by a council of all the separate divisions of the world. But this right here would be the actual undoing of the entire world, for one man did not like the council, a man who was actually on the council, the dean of admissions at the academy, Vladimir Darkflame. He too was powerful, and became the first human being to ever reawaken the Dragon Titan using the forbidden ritual. He grew crazy with power, wiping out most of the living population on Dragonspyre, and those who did survive evacuated the event. It is unconfirmed what happened next, but my theory is that Vladimir realized what he had done, and in an attempt of retribution, used the ritual to send the Titan back into a slumber, and died himself in the process. This leads to current events, where Malistaire, the Death Teacher of Ravenwood, turned crazed lunatic, has come in order to awaken the great and powerful Dragon Titan, in order to use its ancient magic to bring his beloved wife back to life. Of course though, the only one that can stop him is the wizard. Your wizard, actually. Merle Ambrose doesn't want to deal with any of this shit, so he's leaving it up to you. And the Myth Professor, who I think I failed to mention before, is Malistaire's bald brother, Cyrus Drake. Malistaire, his brother, and his wife used to be the teachers of the spiritual magics at Ravenwood. Death, Myth, and Sylvia, Malistaire's wife, taught life. Unfortunately, she got the terminal 7 brain disease, and she died. This is the event that changed Malistaire the Death Teacher into Malistaire the Dick. But Cyrus Drake, the Myth Teacher, doesn't know if you're up to the challenge of fighting his brother or not. So with the first pre-world quest, you must fight Cyrus Drake himself in his tower.
I need to know if you've any hope of surviving against my brother Malistaire. The only way I can be sure is to challenge you myself. Stand your ground.
The pre-world quests are pretty much going to become a staple, and you'll need to do them before every new world, pretty much from here on out. This one is by far the shortest, but they do get longer. After defeating Cyrus Drake and proving that the teachers here are actually pretty ass, you finally make your way to the accursed world of Dragonspyre. Like the other 4 worlds of this arc, Dragonspyre also follows the formula, but here it's put together a little more crustily. Like the portal chamber here, it's not like anything. It's just a small crumbled tower that is in the same place as the commons area of this world, which is known as the Basilica, which is also the smallest commons central type area of any world, with pretty much nothing here except Cyrus's smooth head Zeke, who this time around lost a bunch of stone roses, and this kid in a wheelchair, who is in every world for some reason. But the only reason I'm bringing him up now is because I'm really just now noticing him. And a thought comes to mind. In a world with magic and floating objects and even golems with moving prosthetics, why is this man stuck in a wheelchair? The wheelchair even has magic and can float. Did Merle Ambrose not want to put money in that department? It doesn't really matter, I guess, but it is something that made me ponder. Anyways, Cyrus is here pretty much just to tell you where to go, because he's not doing any of this shit either. Even though it's his brother, his excuse is that Malistaire will sense him if he's in Dragonspyre, but dog, you were already here. But no, Cyrus sent us to the first third of the world, the Athenian, home to all the run-down shops of Dragonspyre, the mini-game Dirt Pile, and the Lore Master, a boss that lives solely just to die over and over again just so wizards have a chance to get a slutty pig spell. The current goal is to find a way into the Necropolis for our own nefarious reasons, and best place to learn how to get there is the Tower Archives, the first real zone of Dragonspyre, which of course follows the formula of copy-paste streets with one unique scene per zone like the other worlds. In this world, 90% of it's going to look like these corroded hellish streets. I would say this varies at least a little bit more than the other worlds, because you can get random big open areas like these that don't necessarily lead anywhere, but still cool nonetheless. This world I feel has more of a liminal space vibe than other areas in the game. These areas are so big, so empty, and just so shitty. Perfect for that early 2000s graphic liminal space vibe. The unique spot for the Tower Archives is of course the Tower Archives. With the help of the definitely not sleazy Zerathrax, you must activate all the crystals on the towers to open the main tower where the information you seek lies. So after completing some quests and turning on the stones, you have to fight Zerathrax because, of course, never trust anyone that talks like this.
Come closer, yes.
You learn that in order to go to the Necropolis, you need a portal stone, which you can only get from a stone keeper. And the only one around is this dude named Laszlo in the Plaza of Conquests. He knows where a portal stone is, but you'll have to prove yourself in the ways of Dragonspyre by completing challenges and activating pedestals to fight champions from other worlds. With each battle won, you gain Laszlo's approval until you finally defeat the last combatant, the Sea Lord. Laszlo is impressed with your skill and tells you where you can find the portal stone, in the Grand Chasm, a section of Dragonspyre that used to be full of beauty, long before the Dragon Cataclysm, a scene forever stuck in the past, which is exactly where we gotta go. Yup, time travel. So we gonna go back in time and kill Malistaire while he's on the shitter? Nope. Just gotta go back in time and ask a guy where a key is for a chamber that holds another key. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. Then you go back to the future, open the chamber, and finally get the portal stone, ending the first third of the world. Which, this whole first third of the world was pretty much just a big fetch quest for a portal stone. Yeah, not off to a great start, Dragonspyre. It might be a hot take, but I think Dragonspyre is one of the worst worlds. It just feels like there's a lot of unnecessary padding, just because it's supposed to be the big, bad final world. Gotta have a lot of bullshit, you know? The problems really show itself with all the stupid towers and shit, especially before every basic boss fight. You just gotta do these long-ass towers. It's just a big drag. Well, now anyway, you got the portal stone, so time to get the main story back on track. You can now enter the Necropolis, the second third of Dragonspyre, a giant mausoleum that holds the true dead of Dragonspyre. And why is the reason we're here, you may ask? Well, Cyrus is really pissed at his brother Malistaire, so he sent us here to dig up his wife's corpse and suck up her soul into a crystal. Pretty based.
Malistaire, is that you? Have you come for me? It's so cold here, so dark, and I'm so alone.
Anyway, you awaken this dead woman to beat her ass and steal a pendant from her corpse. Turns out, it's a pendant for the Dragonspyre Academy. The new goal is to become a student here, so you can gain access to the Academy, which is the final third of Dragonspyre, so the purpose of this whole zone, much like the last zone, is just to get to the next zone. Kinda lame. So yeah, the new plan is now to attend college classes. First class you gotta pass is at the Drake Hatchery, where all drakes are born and raised. You must pass the class of Drake Studies here. The second class you must take is Dragonspyre History in the Crucible, Ah, the Crucible, also known as the most generic area in all of Dragonspyre, and that's saying something. The main area is pretty much just a lesser version of Plaza of Conquest, with pedestals and boss fights and all. Only somewhat interesting thing about this layout is this little random walkway right here. Neato. Passing both of these classes grants a permanent membership to the Dragonspyre Academy. If only they granted a permanent membership for Wizard101, but oh well. You just need to find the dean to give you your Dragonspyre student portal stone, and you can get your way on over to the academy. Unfortunately, the dean is a little tough to find, considering he caused the event that is essentially the equivalent of a nuclear bomb explosion for Dragonspyre. And all the rest of the spirits were kind of pissed and kept his soul trapped deep in the labyrinth. A big contender for one of the worst dungeons in the entire game. Right up there alongside where the fucking Plague Oni lives. It used to be a lot worse, actually, because you used to have to go there a second time almost immediately after. But luckily they changed that. But it is still extremely long with 7 boss fights and a lot of running around. The only interesting boss is the Dean Vladimir Darkflame himself. And that's not because he fights differently or has a unique mechanic, because he doesn't. He just strictly looks cool. Once his soul finally gets sent to hell, you obtain your second portal stone and go to the Dragonspyre Academy. This is the Dragonspyre equivalent of Ravenwood, back in Wizard City. And it's clear to see which school has the bigger budget. Only school that's really left is the Fire School and part of the Death School, but the surviving Death Tree doesn't have a name like the Fire Tree does, so I guess Death doesn't count. So yeah, pretty much only school left standing is the Fire School, and the Fire Tree's name here is Ashley. Who would have thought? And she gives you one of, if not the most hated quest of all time. At least it was before it got nerfed heavily. She tells you that you need to ride a drake in order to reach the Dragon's Roost, where Malistaire is. In order to guide a drake, you need a Dragon Rider's staff, which the last one was split into many pieces and scattered around the spiral. Probably by Malistaire. Anyways, you of course need to find all the obsidian chests, which house the scattered pieces, and they are scattered around the worlds you've already been to so far. There's 4 you gotta find, and are locked behind bosses like Lord Nightshade in Wizard City, and Beating Arini in Crocotopia. But like I said, this questline got nerfed and used to be a whole lot worse, with more than double the chests you had to go and backtrack for. You had to find 9 before, and one of them was at the end of the Labyrinth dungeon. Yeah, the super long and tedious dungeon you just did? Yeah, do it again. This was a change I definitely agree with. But once you collect them all, you can now begin the final third of Dragonspyre and the final chunk of the first story arc of the game. Now that you have all the pieces of the Dragon Rider staff, you need to acquire a pure crystal jewel to place on top. This leads to the first zone of Dragonspyre Academy, the Crystal Grove. Definitely my favorite location in this world, aesthetically wise. Something about all these colorful glimmering crystals along with the dreaded sky and atmosphere of Dragonspyre just makes this place stand out, but not in a bad way. Anyway, you're here to find the perfect crystal. Luckily you have a crystal miner to help you, named Zarek, who may or may not be Zeke's dead brother. Once you obtain it through typical MMO defeat and collect quests, you merge all the pieces of the staff together. Now all you need is a drake to ride to go along with your staff. Next area is actually a curveball, because for the first time in this game so far, you get to backtrack into an old area instead of getting into a new one. Of course we're backtracking to the Drake Hatchery, so we can experience the beauty of childbirth. We then find and hatch a drake egg here. Congratulations, you now have a son. He's so small and cute and frail. We need to beef him up and get him some armor ASAP. This takes us to the final real zone of Dragonspyre, the Forum, a Colosseum-like forge area where all drakes are trained and built armor for. Prepare for a lot of fetch quests. Time skip like 20 minutes and your drake is big and has armor. It is time for the final dungeon of the world. You make your way back to the academy, where your son is waiting for you. Oh man, do they grow up so fast. I sure will like having him as my mount to journey with me across the spiral from here on out. Oh, wait, no, you don't keep him. And you never use him again after this. Fucking horseshit, dude. You're telling me they couldn't even gift you a basic normal mount for getting this far in the game? Biggest loss in the whole game so far. Well, after riding your drake for the first and final time to the top of the mountain, you make it to the end of the original game, with the final dungeon, the Great Spire. This is a decently long dungeon, but has a lot of openness and uniqueness that makes it better than other dungeons like the fucking Labyrinth. The majority of this dungeon takes place inside this volcanic spire, where you work your way up, going through different passageways and fighting different unique enemies, as well as bosses, even fighting some new Oni. There's also a secret boss around here too. Once you find the elevator, it takes you up to the second part of the dungeon, where you can hear and witness Malistaire in the middle of his ritual to awaken the Dragon Titan. Here you have to battle various Draconians to open the door and then defeat his subordinates in order to stop the ceremony. This is where your entire journey so far has led up to. You finally confront Malistaire. But as you do, Cyrus Drake shows up in the first kind of cutscene in the game and attempts to do something for the very first time in this whole arc. And what does he do?
Sylvia, your wife, she's gone! There is no power in the spiral that can bring her back. Certainly not this.
He shows Malistaire, his brother, the soul of his dead wife, in hopes she could talk to him. Maybe talk him out of it.
Malistaire, please. It's me, Sylvia. Listen to me.
Of course, Malistaire didn't like this too much and thinks it's a trick, and blasts piss boy Cyrus Drake in the dick. And now it's all up to you to stop Malistaire from destroying the spiral.
Stand aside, young wizard. You cannot hope to stop me.
This fight now is nothing like how it was when it first dropped. Currently, Malistaire has 8,000 health, but he used to have 10,000 health. But even before that, in the very beginning when this game first dropped this world, this man had 100,000 health. To put that in perspective, there's very few bosses that are out now, 15 years later, that reach those type of numbers. And there used to be a cool little gimmick where his wife would join the battle at a certain point on his side of the battlefield, but would help you out by debuffing Malistaire and attacking him and shit. In current day, however, it's unfortunately just another generic boss battle. I don't even think the wife shows up anymore. They should definitely update it again at some point just to make it, you know, a little bit more unique, considering it is the big final battle. You know, the main story. You know, this is Malistaire. You've been hunting him this whole time. We need some kind of unique gimmick here. But I guess anyways, the inevitable happens and you straight up kill Malistaire. Like he turns into a ghost.
I failed you, Sylvia. All I wanted was to free you from death.
Rest now, my love. You can rest now.
I like to believe the force from my magic just knocked him back and his neck just broke on a chair or something. Cyrus wakes up from his nap afterwards and is happy you did his dirty work for him.
I have lost my brother, though the true Malistaire was gone long ago. I will return us both to Headmaster Ambrose's office now.
He makes a portal for you and him to travel back to Wizard City so you can tell Merle Ambrose about how much of a shitty headmaster he is and how you did his job for him and how much you won't get rewarded for it. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of Wizard101. Or it would have been if they stopped making money, but no, that was just the first arc, and more arcs were made. So far, there are 4, and each one has better graphics, better level design, better lore and story than all the original 5 worlds, for sure. Don't get me wrong, all these worlds I've gone over so far have a special place in my heart. They all do kind of suck ass, aside from Wizard City because it did get that revamp. They all have the same issues of copy-paste scenery, every boss and enemy fights the same, and the graphics just hurt. At least the newer worlds that come out have some bosses that have cheats or different abilities, and the AI just gets straight up smarter as you get deeper into the game, which is good and bad. I like how the game gets better as you push through it, but that's the thing, you gotta push through a lot of stale and repetitive shit before you get to some good content. And the game is a long grind. Last world that just came out pretty recently ended with a level cap of 170. When you beat Dragonspyre, you should be around 50, so the first arc isn't even a third of the game anymore. Yet this chunk is still the chunk most people will remember and associate with the game. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, maybe King's Isle should slow down on making updates to the newest world and adding higher level caps. And maybe they should start focusing on going back and making the early game and even some of the mid game just better, you know? Anyways, that just about wraps up this video and me covering the exploration of the first arc of Wizard101. If you guys enjoy this series and want to see more, let me know in the comments. I can already show you a glimpse of which world I would be covering next. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and do yourself a favor and have a nasty night. Peace out, and I'll see you next time.